and move on to health. And Debi.
Good afternoon. Yes, thank you. Well, just to set the scene for my segment, a story in the Observer and Guardian. It was an Observer study in the Guardian. Very interesting. It's naive to think that this is in the best interests of the NHS, how big pharma's millions are influencing healthcare. Interesting to see a Northampton GP, Dr. Yasir Javed. He's received £483,561 since 2019, direct from pharmaceutical companies, and more than 43 million was paid to healthcare individuals in 2022. So lots of collaborations between pharma. And there's a couple of graphs on the next slide that will just indicate, so you can see there on the left, the drug company payments to healthcare organisation and individuals has almost doubled in the past 8 years. And the one on the right, the 15 biggest drug company donors to the UK's health sector. So you can see GlaxoSmithKline ahead. But check out that article. It's a very interesting article, which brings me neatly on to, it's that time of the month and it's the MHRA board meeting. But I had to fight to get the joining link. And I only received the joining link after a flurry of 4 emails to the MHRA. I received the link 40 minutes prior to the meeting. So it was kind of almost as though maybe they didn't want me to be there. And I'll be talking about the MHRA more, but I did make it. And as you can see, we're not allowed to screenshot, we're not allowed to take films, but I did make it to the MHRA board meeting. So what did they talk about in the board meeting only yesterday? Well, I can tell you that you'll be very pleased to know that they talked about all sorts of things. And I've just put a compilation on one screenshot here for you. So they talked about the yellow card, tick box. They talked about the O'Shaughnessy review, tick. They talked about the Cumberledge report, tick. They talked about sodium valproate, tick. They even talked about the Patient Safety Commissioner and Her Majesty's Government's response to Professor Dame Angela McLean's pro-innovation regulation of technologies review. And they talked, of course, about Stephen Lightfoot. Now, I'm going to be talking more about what the MHRA did talk about in their board meeting later in Extra. But the things that you'll notice that they didn't talk about were vaccine injuries, deaths that are due to unlicensed products, and a few things that we're going to see moving forward. But one thing that they did talk about was the MHRA's corporate plan. And this that they launched only in July. Now, what does the corporate plan say? Well, what are the strategic priorities? So here you can see, if you look at the ones in green, so 1, 2, 3, 4, maintaining public trust through transparency and proactive communication. Freeze the screen to see the rest, because pretty much it's all, as Alex would say, word soup. Talking about maintaining public trust, that seems to be the most important thing. One thing they didn't talk about on the MHRA board meeting was this article that I saw in The Guardian about a patient has died and 3 were hospitalised in a Sciensus chemotherapy incident. Now, the MHRA have launched an investigation into this. And Alison Cave, as you can see, says that patient safety is always, of course, of public concern and a priority. But this version of these drugs differed from a licensed product. So there's a big investigation on this. Another thing that the MHRA board meeting didn't talk about was Long Vax. So we've all heard of long COVID. And now, apparently, this has come from the New York Post. We have Long Vax, and you can see that the symptoms there are pretty similar to long COVID, in inverted commas. Persistent headaches, intense tiredness, irregular heart rate, abnormal blood pressure. And although we're told that cases are very rare, we're told that this has to be looked at in more detail. And it's not just the New York Post, the New York Post that's carrying the story. It's also the Daily Mail. And you can see that Harvard and Yale scientists are probing a new condition. They're saying that they don't want the issue to be seized upon by the anti-vax movement that has gained momentum. Well, I would suggest that perhaps they're not wanting the vaccine injured either to be looking at long COVID. So they weren't talking about that in the MHRA board meeting. And I've just done one little screenshot of symptoms in case anybody wants to take it and tweet it and share it and just inform people that Long Vax is a thing now. It obviously exists. The other things that the MHRA didn't talk about, something that I'm very concerned about, more injections. This time, there's a new vaccine hope for Down syndrome people who they say are more at risk of developing Alzheimer's. Now, I'm very concerned because this article carries a picture of a baby. So I'm asking myself, are we looking at jabbing Down syndrome babies in case they develop dementia or Alzheimer's at a later date? I don't know, but it's concerning. And also another, staying on the baby theme and staying on injections, I saw this story, and the NHS are now rolling out genomic screening immediately for all preterm babies and low weight babies. Now, this is for retinopathy of prematurity. What concerns me is, and I'm not a pediatrician, and I am not a pediatric nurse, but it would appear that retinopathy of prematurity, which can cause blindness in babies, is really if they're under 3 pounds in weight, or if they're born before 30 weeks gestation. It goes in stages. It's assessed in stages. But the treatment that they're talking about rolling out is a monoclonal antibody that will be administered by an injection directly into the eye of these babies. So I just want parents to be aware that for babies that are low birth weights or that are preterm, do you know what your baby's being screened for? So that's on the NHS website too. So that's just a little concern over newborn babies.
Okay, Debi, thank you very much for that. Now let's move on. If you like what the UK Column does, you would like to support us, please head over to community.ukcolumn.org. There are options to help us out there. You could pick something up at the UK Column shop. But please do share anything you find on the various platforms, especially ukcolumn.org and ukcolumnextracts.co.uk. Now, tomorrow at 1 p.m. In the interview slot, we'll be putting out an interview that I've done with Matt Campbell. This is about the subject we were talking about, I think, on Friday's programme. His aims to get an inquest into his brother's death following 9/11. That inquest has been denied by the Solicitor General, and he is going to take that to judicial review. So join us at 1 p.m. tomorrow for that. Debi's latest blog is up in 2 seconds. Debi, what have you got on this week?
NHS special, and where are your children going to be looked after if they're not very well?
Brilliant. And Debi, the Vaccine Injured Legal Fund.
Yeah, I would just say to anybody, please don't donate to the big charities if you don't know where your donation's going to. This is an incredibly worthwhile cause. Plenty of people with vaccine injuries can't seek legal help. We need more donors, please. So please look at that page if you possibly can. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Debi.